People out, but- Okay, we're recording.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody. So good to see you. This is the February meeting of the Teton County Library Board, and I'm going to call us to order. Present today on this February 28th, 2024, 4 board members, Mary Lee White, Stan Steiner, Peg Gilday, Lisa McGee, and we are thinking perhaps Vicki will join us. But on the staff side, Kip and Stella and Lindsay, and from the foundation board, Diana. Do I have a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Move.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Moving on to the January minutes. Anybody see any changes or additions that you'd like to note? And if not, if I get a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the January 24, 2024 regular meeting.
Great. Do I have a second? Second. Aye. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, wonderful. Any correspondence?
There's no correspondence.
No correspondence.
Sorry.
Okay, and public comment. I don't see any. There's nobody in the room and I don't see anyone on Zoom. So let's move on to the consent agenda.
That's my second.
Great. Stella, is that your report? Do you want to say anything?
Sure, I would.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to mention a few things. One is in my financial report. I got to include in the income category. We recently received a little bit of interest income from the funds that we have with the state central acquisitions program. So we received $505.25 in earned interest for the months of July through December 2023.
Could you say that amount again?
Sure, $505.25 in earned interest. And that was, I had emailed one of the staff persons at the acquisitions department at the state library because I noticed our monthly amount had been pretty much the same. And then all of a sudden I noticed this increase and I was like, where'd this come from? So that did not get put into my financial narrative, but it is present on the report that you have that says on deposit with the state library. And so one of the things I'd like to mention is last month we had a bit of discussion of the various reports that come from the county. And if you had the opportunity to read through my financial narrative, you would know that I stated one of the things that Kip and I decided is perhaps we're giving you too many different varieties of reports and it's perhaps just too much to distill through and wade through. And really, in my understanding, what you need to know is you need to know the bottom line, where are we at within the year? And also in terms of our expenditures and our revenue. So we have been providing you with the Teton County Treasurer Revenue Report. We'll continue to do that. One of the things I'm going to do though, is last month, part of the discussion was that on the report that you've been seeing, you also see other departments listed. And I guess that's been part of the possibly confusing matter. So going forward, I'm just gonna copy and paste just the library information onto a Word doc so that you're only seeing library. That you're not looking at other grants and wondering, what is this about? So the other report that we'll continue to provide you is the expenditure and appropriations report. And what this does is it shows you the amounts that were spent the previous month through the end of that month. It shows you the year-to-date expenditures, shows you the original budget. And then where are we at in terms of remaining budget and the overall percentage used for the year. So it also kind of serves as a P&L, but really the county documents are most, sorry, I'm gonna say professional, that's not the word, the most important documents that we have. So really this functions more so than the P&L that we were producing from QuickBooks. It's and then we'll continue to provide you with two documents that I create, but I create, one of them is called On Deposit with the State Library, and we've been doing this periodically. So throughout the year, we send funds over to the state library so that we can participate in the Central Acquisitions Program, which is whereby one of our main vendors, Ingram, for books and materials and DVDs, they have a better discount that they get through the state. So we send them the titles that we want ordered. And then the state actually handles all the invoicing and payment. So why we are providing you this document is that once we send the money over to the state, it's out of our local county documents, but we want you to know, hey, we also have this money on reserve with the state. So when you look at that report and you see the total, that total free balance is that's money that has not been expended yet. So that is literally money that is sitting with the state. And then that top row, I'm sorry if you're looking at the document, that is where we saw the interest within the $1,233. And basically what that account is, that's if we want to purchase any technical supplies, barcodes, RFID tags, and so forth, that's the account we would use to do that with. And then the other accounts, we have one account for our Alta books, one account for our TCL books, and then likewise for the media. So that is your on deposit with the state. So where once a month, our collection services manager, Susan Centrella, sends me these numbers, and then I just am populating them into a spreadsheet to provide you every month.
So where do we see those funds come out of the expenditures and
So
appropriations?
that would be out of the materials budget. So that would be your line items 900-001 library books, 900-003 library media. And then in December, I believe it was, we also moved some funds from the digital content over to the state.
So should the line item 001 and 003 add up to this number on the revenue, on the library, on the state, on deposit with the Wyoming State Library?
No, because what we've done is we will issue a voucher to have a check cut.
Oh,
So-
so it's like a savings account.
Correct. So it's coming out of the 9001 and 003.
Okay.
But then once it goes to the state library, what this report I'm providing you is just saying how much money is sitting at the state library that has not been expended yet.
It's been expended from our operating
Right,
budget.
so
but
we should see it come out of our budget.
Yes, yes, a lump sum like $20,000 might come out and then go to the state library, and then they're paying the bills for us.
So do those amounts come out at different times? So that's why the balance in the on deposit state library fund is different
Yeah.
from what we see come out of our budget this year.
We see if I'm trying to, so basically, what we try to do is somewhat quarterly, we'll send an amount over that comes out of our operating budget, we'll send it over to the state.
Okay.
That is part of our regular voucher process. And so it gets deducted, that amount then gets deducted out of our operating budget at the time that we send the check over. And then every month, though, the folks at the state, they are purchasing materials with the monies that we sent them.
Okay.
So therefore, every month, the free balance that you'll see will change because just depending upon what has been purchased for us at the state level. But in other words, we're providing you these numbers because once the check is cut and goes to the state, that's no longer in the county's hands, but we want you to know, oh, we have these additional funds at the state.
Okay, but they don't necessarily correlate. The expenditure from those line items in our budget don't necessarily correlate with the amount of money that's sitting in the on deposit statement.
Correct. And reason being is that, for example, we also order a lot of materials from Amazon. And so we cut those checks directly. So whereas we don't ask the state library to order like books and DVDs from Amazon. So that's an example of why those amounts will be different.
All right.
And Stella, is that number carried over years, like by the end of this fiscal year? We may or may not have, or the state may or may not have spent all of that money and it just rolls over.
It does roll over. And we've had some of these accounts with the state for years and years. We hadn't used this service for a number of years, and then a few years ago, realizing we could get a better rate on the cost of our books and so forth, and also alleviate some of the accounting work that we had to do internally. It's a win-win situation.
In like our operating budget, which does not, no funds roll over to the next year. These funds, so at the end of the fiscal year, if we see we're not gonna be able to spend
Right.
maybe $2,000 or $3,000, we can send the money to the state and save that money. That's great.
Yeah.
Another question, the line item for media is a high percentage, it's an overage, I think. Is there a reason for that? Library media is like 80%, 89% of the budget. And I was just wondering, are things front loaded or am I reading it right?
63%.
63, what's the one above it, 89?
Yeah, I am seeing.
Oh, it is like-
And
That just, I didn't understand why that would be 90 if we're kind of around 60% for everything.
It could, I would have to ask like the selectors directly, but it could be that maybe some of the selectors did some more heavy spending in the month of January, or, there's. The idea is that selectors of the collection should be, spending every month. But sometimes some folks, like maybe they see some great sales on some DVDs or something, so they maybe one month purchased more or that sort of thing. So that's why that number can be higher
Okay.
than
They
where we're
still
at
within
in the year.
Full budget, it's just
Yes.
when they
Right.
purchase, I just
Yeah.
wanna be sure. Okay,
And then
And there
typically,
is 7,000 of that unspent currently at the state.
that's why I
So
was thinking
some
they
of
were
it is
connected,
possibly-
we might get reimbursed for it in a way.
Yeah,
We'll get reimbursed and that will maybe come down next year
yeah,
because of when we ask for the state money, correct?
the state will, well, it's spent out of our budget, but some of it
Yes.
is still sitting at the state to be spent.
Okay.
So,
right,
We can
So we
spend
may-
above our budget because,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
got it. It's a little confusing.
It is.
Thank you for.
Sure. And then the fourth report that we have is the capital reserve fund expenditures. Now, we budgeted for this fiscal year, there was 150,000 that we budgeted for our capital reserve fund. And then we had that moved immediately at the start of the fiscal year from the operating budget into the actual reserve fund. What this spreadsheet does is if we have expenditures in the previous month, I'm listing them on the spreadsheet just so you can see what is being purchased out of the capital reserve fund. And then likewise, where the balance of that fund as it was at the end of the previous month. So that's what this little report is that you see here. And you will see, because when we have the vouchers sent over to the county, they have to have an account to denote those expenditures. So they do take them out of the capital reserve account that's in the that's in your expenditures and appropriations report, but then they do like a journal entry to fund that money back, if that makes sense.
Well, thank you. I thought
Sure.
these were much easier to understand. I really appreciate the effort, and it's nice as a board member to say that I get it.
Well, and as a board member, I can say that I still am really having a hard time getting it. And like, for example, and this isn't the right time to ask some more questions about the documents, but the county report
Mhm.
that we got, I don't understand why library revenue is a minus amount, and like interest income is a minus amount.
So that's just, I think, the function of the way the accounting software is. So that's actually a positive. So that's actually money that we have received.
Okay.
I know, yeah, it does seem odd that it's
Well,
got a
it-
negative in front of it, but
It says if it was coming out of county money and going into the library fund or accounting,
Mhm.
that would make sense to
Yeah.
me.
But that's actually, and I'm happy to walk through the two county reports in more detail if you want. But basically, like with the revenue. So like the library revenue, that could be, it's a multi items that are taking place there. So one is, that could be, if somebody loses or damages a book, we do assess a fee for that book. The library revenue also includes, if somebody is using our copiers or printers, they pay some money to use that. And then also occasionally, a patron from another library may borrow one of our books through our ILL service. They damage that book, then they pay us that amount. So the library revenue is a kind of a combination of those three types of revenue. And so what you're seeing the current month, that is reflecting the month ending of January 31st. So that would have been that month. And then you have the year-to-date revenue. The projected, that's what we put in the budget for the current fiscal year. And of course, with revenue, you don't necessarily know how much you're going to get with the library revenue, with interest, with passports, etc. And then the percent used is where are we at in this current month. And I know percent used is also confusing because we're not really using, we're taking in. So it's, you know, the language is also a little bit confusing, so.
Does that help, Mary Lee?
Yeah,
Vicky, hi.
Hi, guys. Stella, I think one of the things that might be a little confusing to others who haven't worked with the county budget before is that some of those negatives that you see have nothing to do with revenue we bring in outside of the budget. The big negatives are the things that come from out of the budget, right? On your report?
So this is everything that we're taking in.
Yeah, yes. But it's not our operating budget, correct?
Yes, it is our operating budget, yes. With the exception of the line item that says grants, foundation and friends. That would not be part of the county operating budget per se.
County reimburse. Yeah, but for instance, like, you have your operations reimbursement from the county for the current month is a negative 422.81 for January, which means that so far we've used more than almost 60% of our annual budget, right?
Correct.
There's still a lot in there, but that big 422, you balance that out somewhere, right?
So that would have been the monthly payment that we received from the county.
Right.
That used to be, we used to have a mill, the library used to have a mill levy, and as of several years ago, the county did away with that, and instead we just received like a lump sum fund that
Right.
we request. It will of course be part of the conversation later today when we get to budget.
Okay.
But all of these items that are listed, these were all items that we put into the fiscal budget, fiscal year 24, projecting what our revenue would be. But of course, some of these, it is a little bit difficult to try and forecast exactly what your revenue is going to be. For example, last month I mentioned that our passport fees we're not going to hit, we're not going to take in 42,000. It's just partially because of when we started doing passports, but also that was also kind of based on a number that we had from the clerk of district court in terms of what they were doing, but they do more passport appointments than we've been able to do. So that's how we know we're just, most likely we're not going to make that 42,000.
Not this.
But overall, we should still be okay in terms of our expenditures versus our revenues. Does that answer your question?
Are you talking about me?
Yes, sorry, Vicki.
Well, mine was not really a question. I just wanted to clarify the revenue situation. It's kind of crazy. County is difficult.
Stella, can I ask one more question before
Sure.
we move on? The interest income on this Teton County Treasurer Revenue Report. Can you tell us what that is and why is it such a big number for the month? And
Sure.
why is it more than projected?
So when we moved to eliminating our own bank accounts and moved to the county, we immediately saw a large uptick in our monthly interest income just because of the amount of funds that the county has. So when we did the projected revenue for fiscal 24, that was still kind of based upon like the previous year, and the previous year had been when we had been half of the year on our own and then half of the year with the county. One of the things that I know the treasurer does is she has several like different types of CD and investment accounts for countywide.
Okay.
And so what I understand from the reports that I was looking at this month was a big jump because there is something called a meter class investment income, and from that alone, in January, we've apparently received $30,000 in change in interest.
Yeah.
So that's why for the month of January, it's a total of 34,000, because that was just a huge lump sum of interest that we received.
And then why is year to date such a small number?
And why is it negative when all the other year-to-date numbers are positive?
I'm gonna need to look into that. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I would just think it'd be at least 34.
Yeah, and it should be, that's gotta be an error, because we have definitely seen more year to date. So,
So this is not unusual for the new investments, like the library's gonna earn like $100,000 in interest in the fiscal year. I mean, that's a lot.
I don't know if it would be that much, but
Okay.
yeah.
Like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Just in interest, okay.
Is that a percentage of the all of the county's investments?
Yes.
And each department or whatever gets
Katie
a percentage.
has all of the pool monies from every department, and she invests that, and then because it's such a large amount, that's why we're earning so high interest. And then based on our proportion of that, we get that's the interest that we get.
So yes, that year to date does seem to be a mistake, and I just somehow didn't
No worries.
catch that when I was producing this report. The other thing, while we're on the topic of interest, because we did see such a greater growth of interest revenue when we went with the county, what we started doing is at the end of the year, then we'll most likely come to you all and ask to move some of those funds to the capital reserve fund, because once it's in our capital reserves, can't be touched. And there's a lot we're trying to do with both facilities, so we do need those funds. So most likely that would be the case again this year, I'm assuming.
Stella, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions on aspects of the consent agenda? Okay, well then I move to approve the February 2024 consent agenda. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to Kip's report.
Keep mine short.
Oh,
Very long.
Unless you ask any questions. I would say the two big highlights from my report would be that we have had as a goal this year to get a space planning RFP out and start that process. And so I have one that I think is ready to send out. The leadership team reviewed it today. I don't know if Abigail had
I
any
did, actually,
comments.
I did review it, I'll talk to you about it,
Okay,
just a few things.
okay.
And could you tell us a little bit more about, are you done or you have more to say about that?
Well, I'll let you ask.
I have a
Maybe I
question.
will answer.
Like what prompted a space planning study?
The strategic planning process, one of the things that came back from all of the public's input was that, we needed more, sort of cozy study areas rather than big, large study tables, perhaps more study rooms. We need a team space in the library. We don't have a dedicated space for that. Also, are our collections right-sized for the building and library use today? A lot of space is devoted to public computers, and if you've ever noticed, there's maybe two or three computers in use at any time anymore. So it's just trying to, the goal is to make better use of our space that we have.
And
Yeah.
one has not been done since the renovation and expansion.
Correct. That I'm aware of at least.
Time.
So, one of the things the public said they really want the lobby space to be more activated, more quiet, more community oriented, than just a big loud empty space. So, The other thing is the coffee cart is, I think, opening next week.
I think so.
Yeah.
So. But this will go out, the submission deadline for consultants to respond is April 19th. And then we'll look at probably needing to have a special meeting of the board in April to award the contract. Once we've selected one, I would like to ask the head board to be on the review committee with your background. And I don't know if we need more than one board member, but I think you're the highly qualified person for that. So we would like to call you. And the goal is to have this done and a final report by the end of August. And we'll spend all that capital that we have.
And do we not have a regular meeting in April?
It's a voucher meeting,
About-
even though our March meeting falls in spring break, which was not the intent, I don't think.
Right.
So,
Okay, great. What else do you have to share with us?
coffee cart, I guess I will say that the entire board is now met their state obligation of the training is called Better Boards.
Certified.
Yes, we're all certified.
You're on
Stella and I
fire.
are as well.
Great.
And you may or may not get a new certificate.
I did get one.
I already got mine.
Well, you may have gotten an incorrect one. It cited the state statute incorrectly and I pointed it out. And so they sent Stella and me a new one.
I got another one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I did not.
Oh, they said after all the hundreds of people they've trained, it's the first time they've been told that the statute.
Well, so they fixed it for everyone who did the most recent training, but you guys did the
Oh,
training
I see.
6 months ago.
I'm not gonna lose.
I guess.
face.
So your certificate might have the
That's okay.
as long as you're on the list with the state,
That's all.
the
that matters.
list they maintain, that's all.
Thank you for keeping us from having to go to Cheyenne.
Yeah.
They now have it online.
That would be Mary Martin and Keith getting that training that they've already done certified. Especially since it's half the time of the rest of them.
Yeah. Any questions from the rest of the report?
I thought it was interesting that this month there were almost twice as many new card requests. Is that because of the new policy, new library card? 278 this month as opposed to 164 last month and 161. the
I
month
know there have
before.
been a good number of reciprocal cards issued through, mostly Alta. They are meeting the issuing more than this side, but it has been a lot of that. And for the last 2 times I've had a passport appointment, I've had somebody ask me about seasonal cards, so perhaps there's an uptick in
Hmm.
seasonal cards too.
Oh, yeah.
But
Any
yeah, I would expect that'll level off after a few months, but
And thank you. You guys
Having
have
the passport appointments might
yes. You can thank Kiva for
people might not have a card, but if they're here for their passport, we'll get a card while they're here. So.
Thanks so much, Kev. Diana.
Yes,
Hi.
thank you. Hello. So in the report I sent you, I included where we are with our library enhancements we provided through January 31st. So it's a little beyond the end of Q2 of the fiscal year. And you can see we're slightly over 50%. So we're right on track according to the budget. So that's great. And we're getting ready for fiscal year 25 budget process. And so to do that, we are going to be reaching out to staff to ask for those fun outcome and impact reports that we implemented last year. So on the funding that was distributed for fiscal year 24 for programs, we'll want to know how everything turned out. And then, of course, start a meeting with staff to go over their anticipated spending for fiscal year 25. We won't have an official report to submit to our board until our June board meeting. So March will be, we meet with our board in March, will be a preliminary, just an estimation, and then we will present a full budget in June for approval. I wanted just to share the copy card. Everything I think is pretty much done, as Kip said, so we're hoping to open for business on Monday, but we'll see. No, crossing our fingers. We are also launching Library Giving Day for April. We're actually we're working with 3L and our public relations firm, and we're kind of tweaking it a little bit rather than having a one day of giving, which happens to fall in spring break when most folks around here aren't paying attention much to what's going on, and most of them are traveling. We're going to do a giving month. So we've noticed a couple other foundations provide a giving period in honor of Library Giving Day. And so we thought that would work really well for us, especially because National Library Week falls the week after, and I think 7th to the 13th of April. And then the library has a few big events like Edible Book Festival and things to celebrate library appreciation during the month of April. So we thought we would kind of expand that to a library giving period. So we're working to start sending out information to folks in March next month. And then we're getting ready to start our new website redesign. That was part of our comprehensive communications plan for the new year. So we had just created an outline for what we're going to include, and we're changing our domain name. Right, we're currently tclibfoundation.org, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, but since we merged, we're looking at a new domain name. One that we've already purchased was, since you guys are tclib.org, we thought we'd do tclibff for Foundation and Friends. But then we stumbled upon this really cool supporttclib.org.
I like it.
Isn't that awesome?
I know where that came
We were inspired by who?
from. Seattle Public Library.
Oh, really? The Hennepin County Library is right on it. Hennepin
Oh,
County.
there's a support, SBO.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that, but Hennepin County Library Foundation is one of our inspirations for all of our new communications. They do a phenomenal job. So, we saw theirs and we thought that's perfect. And so we purchased that domain and probably will be changing to that. And then some sad news. I'm not sure if you all heard, we lost our emeritus board member, Johnny Becker, passed away this week.
Oh,
Mm.
my gosh.
Yeah, we got a call day before yesterday. I know. And I personally did not have the privilege of meeting Johnny. I know he had some declining health in the previous year, and I had not had a chance to connect face to face. But we've been receiving just a wonderful amount of sentiments and comments about how beloved he was and how much he loved the library. And so in honor of just how much he contributed over the years, and I know he was on the library board for years, he was on the foundation board, and my understanding is he was one of the founders of the foundation. And so we're going to create a small memorial inside the library entrance.
Oh,
So
nice.
that patrons and friends can jot a few thoughts about Johnny and just a kind of a tribute to him. And we're going to send out an announcement in our newsletter this week. So
Sad news, sorry to hear that.
Apparently he's the person who sort of made orchids the flower of the library.
He's quite a
So
gardener.
the
composter.
memorial will have some orchids on
cool.
it as well.
That's wonderful.
That's really nice.
that's it from my report. Any questions on the financials or anything?
Thank you so much,
Thank
Amanda. Okay, because we just love talking about numbers. Keep talking about numbers.
Why not? I never know how to do this presentation. The last couple of years, it's sort of been, I state what the goal of the budget was. This year, the purpose that the goal that the commissioner set was to level fund or decrease everything except for wages and benefits. we took a slightly different approach. We wanted to take an approach that didn't result in any cuts in services. So we've allowed for increase for inflation, known increases like our cleaning contracts are going to cost more when they come up. So we wanted to preserve services as they are without hurting anything. So in the end, I think because this current year's budget had some one-off expenses that were big ticket items. And our budget this year was formulated before the foundation's budget was formulated. And so we had a lot of funding for digital content in our current operating budget that the foundation is actually funding, the hoopla costs. And so through some of those, getting right-sized numbers for the next fiscal year, we still sort of maintain a level request outside of the wages and benefits. Last week, the commissioners did approve the consultant's recommendation of a 2.6 market adjustment to remain competitive and a 3.6% merit increase or basically cost of living. So wages in the end are the big ticket item that goes up in the proposed budget. And
Is
then
that bigger this year too, because you're fully staffed? Was there some savings last, not
There-
savings, but
no, it's the same number of positions funded at the same. We may not have expended all of it last year because we had some vacancies, but they were full funded positions, so nothing has changed. So I guess what I would do is entertain questions. It's easier to answer questions than.
Did I understand that this had to go, the draft had to go to the county a couple of days ago?
No,
Okay. I
well,
missed
yes,
that.
you did understand that.
Okay. I
But
was like this.
ours operates outside that timeline
Okay.
because of the board.
Thank you.
Mo told me, oh, I don't count the library when I send these things out. So
Thank you.
I told her I would,
We're not vote on.
whatever we do tonight, I will
Got it.
input
Thank you.
and correct or change and let Mo know that we're done.
Perfect.
any questions for Kip?
Questions.
So I'm just thinking more from a public perception if someone was to say, how much is the budget going up? I understand wages are and everything else is either same or, so kind of across the board, what do we see? Is that something that matters? Just an easy, because it's
I
a
didn't
responsible
actually
thing to
do
do.
any math
Okay.
to see
Well,
what
maybe
the
at some
increase
point
is.
it's-
It's an increase of about 500,000
That's what it
from
looks like.
this year, so.
Okay.
But the biggest chunk of that is in the wages.
It's wages. Which they said do that, so.
Right, that's great.
That's not.
Yeah, that's across the board in the county.
Well, I mean, they could
Yeah.
always,
I mean, that's the number that they approved for the purposes of
Of
discussions with the town and the budget. They theoretically, when they go to finalize, could cut those percentages on the wage increases,
I mean, they
they
could
could
say,
tweak it, but
like last year,
Yeah.
they came back and said, go back and cut 3% from the budget.
Mhm.
We went through the exercise and then in the end, they didn't cut anything. So they do have a little bit of,
they pretty much told everybody, don't ask for more than last year, and didn't they? Yeah. And on the payroll, they did what the consultant said, and I think it's probably gonna get approved. That pay increase, they keep up with CPI to not fall behind again when they just got caught up. But, that,
I guess would be that this current board would like to
Keep it,
maintain what
yeah.
the
There was
consultants
one
recommended.
person who was questioning that. But, I think it's gonna get approved,
Next year, maybe.
so.
So this is the first step and then this thing gets massaged along with all the other
Yeah.
Yes.
budgets. Thank you.
And I know Bo and Katie are very conservative when they tell the commissioners what they had to spend.
And these numbers, Kip, that you put together, what you were saying is they were informed by a better idea of the kind of supplemental funds you'll get from the foundation. So, or no,
Well, just the digital content budget line was changed based on what we anticipate the foundation continuing to support.
okay. So,
Well, actually, the whole budget is based on the foundation continuing to support
that's what I guess,
the enhancements that they currently support.
right, so if the foundation didn't exist and you wanted to do all the things that the strategic framework talks about, this budget would be $600,000 more, or,
$600,000,
Right.
well, for this year, $900,000 more.
okay, okay,
Uh,
okay, thanks, that answers it.
No, the county certainly supports most of the budget expenses, but with that, I mean, the library would have no programming,
Yeah.
no outreach, no anything.
Yeah.
Like page to podium, without the foundation. It would look a lot different. So,
All right, any other questions for Kip? Any other general questions about the proposed budget?
when I have a date to appear before the commissioners,
Okay.
I will let you know so that if you want to come and support, it never hurts to have support in the room.
Okay, you don't have that date yet?
No.
Okay, then let us know. Well, then I'll make the motion to approve the fiscal year 25 budget for submission with permission for staff to make minor corrections as needed. Anyone like to second?
Second.
Thanks, Ian. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you. All right, we are moving on to a staff report about a new policy. This is maybe something I didn't read in time for this meeting, so.
So the library, as you know, provides reference and information services. If what the public comes in and expects sometimes is beyond what we're capable of doing. And at the moment, most of the staff have been going through some reference training. And through that process, we've realized, kind of a policy that sort of just outlines what the parameters of reference is for us. And so, Angela, our adult services manager, put together this draft policy. The team reviewed it today. And Abigail's had a brief review of it and determined that it needed to at least go out because it does affect service directly to patrons. So it needs to go out for public notice.
So you have 45 days to play with it,
Yes.
45 days to do it.
to play with it.
Oh, just-
So
So
if
if you
there are any
haven't read it
changes or
today,
anything, we
okay.
can
That's great.
incorporate them before adoption after the 45 days public comment. And if we were to actually get any public comment, it could be edited in response to that. But we never ever get public comment.
Okay,
Do most libraries have a policy like this?
It
As far as
depends,
percentage.
the better organized libraries do, I'm not sure I've ever worked where we've had one.
Do you mean in Wyoming or elsewhere? Because there are a number of things that we put out for official 45-day review to adopt under the Administrative Procedures Act that other counties do not, even when it's absolutely clear that, including in the legislation, that they're required to, and they just don't do it. But we do.
It's about expectation. I think it's a
So,
it's a good document. So I just was kind of surprised it's the first time it's being done. So it's a first.
I mean, a lot of this is probably what we practice, but nobody knows what we practice, so it's good to.
Just gives you a leg to stand on if someone challenges it, that this is the policy. So,
Great, yeah.
and this being Jackson Hole, that's the other reason it's not an issue in other communities, is things don't get challenged the way they do here.
Somebody will do it here.
Uh-huh.
All right, do I have a motion then?
I'll move. I move to give notice and open the proposed reference and information services policy for a 45-day public comment period.
Lee, second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Just so you know, the policy actually. It's gonna be way 45 days later because we don't have an April meeting, which is. So it'll be the May meeting.
Unless we want to put it in the special meeting.
We don't know the date of the special meeting, and when we do the publication, if we get the notice, can we get that together by?
Tomorrow?
No, let's,
No.
actually, if
Because we have so much.
we
time.
have so much time, let's not even try till
Okay.
next week. But that means by next Thursday, either tomorrow or next Thursday, which is the deadline at 3 o'clock to put legal notices in the newspaper. The legal notice has to have that the public hearing to receive final comment before adoption of the final language, it has to be in there. So you'd have to know what your date was now, so it's just as easy to use the name. Meaning it's not like you're not gonna have a big rush for this one, so.
Can we tie it to the budget meeting? In April? We separate.
We just don't know what date.
That won't
you're
be
gonna do
45
that.
days.
And that would be, the
Yeah.
budget thing is just a meeting with the commissioners that I attend.
Oh, yeah,
so-
that, okay.
So,
I was talking about our budget meeting in April,
our voucher meeting,
voucher, sorry.
we'd like to keep that, well, I think we want to keep the voucher meeting in general just for voucher.
And we could, if it's I'd have to do the math to see if the 45 days might not even.
Right.
No, it won't,
It
because I
won't.
just counted 45 days for the treasurer today, and if we publish her thing today, 45 days is,
Well, that's 6 weeks.
yeah. It was tight. Oh, it's April 30th. Yeah, 45 days from today is April 30th, because I did it for the treasurer this morning.
It's a full board meeting.
Right,
and-
so
won't-
there,
we won't
you
make
might
it.
as well wait for your May meeting.
Yeah.
We have 2 more things on the agenda. Mary Lee, do you want to talk about the transportation expo? I saw your note.
Sure.
So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt to let the START board and members know, and some staff who I talked to at the Transportation Expo, that we're waiting for this to happen. And that it's really important and we need it to happen. And, maybe it will happen. That would be awesome. So I did that. I spoke to whoever the representative was at the expo. And then you probably saw the letter that I sent out to the START board chair and the past chair, who's still on the board. So,
And when do they make a decision, or is it sort of rolling?
They just said that it's coming up in the near future that they'll be reviewing routes. Got it. Yeah.
Thanks for doing that, Mary Lee.
You're welcome.
All right, the last thing on the agenda is the payment of library vouchers. Would you like to move?
I move to approve the payment of library vouchers.
I second. Any discussion?
Is there an amount in the motion?
I was just
The
gonna ask
total?
that question because
Yeah.
we've never done that, and every time I go to the commissioners meeting, they do.
Not a bad idea. It's in the staff report, correct? I didn't,
We never include the
Oh.
amount,
in the motion
in the motion itself.
of the total, library vouchers totaling whatever.
Yeah, we go to,
Oh,
like,
it's in the minute.
It's in, it's
there.
right, but actually, if it was in the motion, then it would be in the minutes. And then if anyone wants to go look, they just go look at the minutes rather than having to comb through to go find the document attached to the agenda and the staff report to find. It makes it
Well-
easier, so it's fine, maybe just going forward, trying to get that total in the motion.
They ask a question,
Yeah.
when you're saying the staff report, do you mean my financial narrative that I should have that total in there?
I usually don't pay attention to the numbers aspects of what you guys do.
Cause I've never,
So when you there's a report, how, if I, as a member of the public, decided I wanted to see what vouchers were paid and what the total was, this motion is, where would I go find that?
we would pull out the vouchers for the month and
So it's not anywhere in the public record.
other than
Yeah,
see the monthly
you'd have to,
budget report that. would
well, no,
show
is
that.
it in the financials from early, I mean,
Often they're like ready a couple days before, and then the treasurer signs, and we take the word of the treasurer that everything is good and we vote, but it's never been
but the amount,
quantitative.
so there is this report that we
Right.
provide, so this would show like the previous month's expenditures, would that be sufficient or?
um. Do you have like the county vouchers with the documentation attached?
Yes, so when we went to the county, so previously the library had our own type of voucher, but it was a
Right,
voucher. And then when we moved to county,
You,
I
you fill
merged-
that
I
out.
merged the two documents. Mo took a look at it, said that would be good for her staff.
Uh-huh.
So what we do is then, Lindsay enters everything into QuickBooks.
Mhm.
And then from that is where and from the invoices and receipts attached, then she primarily creates the vouchers.
Mhm.
And we have all of the receipts attached and everything that goes to the county. We retain, a copy of the voucher as well as a copy of that printed material as well.
Like the receipts and stuff.
We're not
Yeah,
part of the county's voucher. line.
No, I know, but who here actually like looks at the voucher with the attached things? You all did the training, making sure like, oh yeah, they bought 1,000 red pens and look, I see red pens all over the library. That's where the money went, right? But for the purposes of the public, is there like, when you vote on it each month, is there an easy way just to have the motion include the total? Like the vouchers we are paying this month total $100.
We could Do that,
Don't we wish?
And if you could have the breakdown, that'd be, if you look at the minutes of the county commissioners voucher meetings, I don't think there's a breakdown there. You'll see them say, okay, the motion is always, I move to, with the second, approve payment of county vouchers totaling whatever. And then occasionally what you will see that, because at their voucher meeting, they sit there, they get there early and they break up the pile of vouchers amongst all of them. And they each take a share and they sit there and they go through that paperwork. And see each and every one with the two other signatures and then add their third signature. And they will occasionally comment when they make the motion, if it's a particularly big number, one of them will say, and I'll just note that the reason it's so high this month is there was some payment on the new county courthouse or whatever, which, you know, maybe someday. Or something. I mean, most of the time they don't say anything. But, or they'll note, oh, and they'll note we finally paid off, you know, blah, 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 you know, whatever just strikes their mode, although most of the time it's just the straight total number. But then I think the minutes also has a list of the itemized.
The 30
Um,
vouchers.
Right, that goes in and I think that ends up in the minutes.
Is there a
I mean-
spreadsheet of all of those
Yeah.
staff vouchers that are approved? That
I
could
mean,
just
if you could
be,
just copy and paste it,
provided.
that'd be.
yeah.
I mean, we can create
Stella?
one.
Mhm.
Isn't it the expenditures and appropriations?
Well,
report?
that's what I was just
Mhm.
asking Abigail, that would suffice.
Is
I would
this,
think that would.
is this all the stuff that's getting paid in that total amount? If it's like, we approve county vouchers being paid, you know, that have been reviewed by, you know, the treasurer in the amount of $100, is this like $5 for this?
Yes.
$5, then just attach this,
Yes,
or, you know.
or put the
It's a
total in
month.
there.
It's a month.
That's a
It's a
month
month off.
behind.
Right, that's last month, right? Or is that not this month?
Yes, correct, that's last month's.
Right,
So,
so
yeah,
is
so
there a
that's
way,
not, sorry.
right.
So we would have
At
to
the very
create a
least-
spreadsheet every month, yeah.
Could we at least have the total?
Even at the end.
Yes.
Can we just put the total in the motion,
Yes,
right?
And then you have some gauge as well. Yeah.
So you reviewed it. She knows what the total is. You've reviewed the actual vouchers with the supporting documentation. Everyone else either is trusting you, or maybe they came in randomly to look at it themselves just because they were in the neighborhood, and why not,
Do
right?
that all the time.
So, and then,
We have-
right,
we used to.
but then in terms of if the public wanted to sow a million, you know, you paid 500, you know, $1,000, they want to see it, it would, the itemization actually is in this report in the
Yeah.
next month's meeting in the financials.
And so then that
So,
amount that Peg approves should be the same number as the expenditures
the following month,
the following month.
okay, so
Exactly.
you could track it. You know, is there a way to not do a spreadsheet, but just like, even like,
The
I guess-
spreadsheet
or-
makes sense because it's so antiquated. I mean, I'm kind of blown
I
away.
just don't want to create
But-
more work, but it would be awfully nice if in addition to the total in the motion, if there was some piece of paper that actually had the itemization.
I think the report that Stella referred to and that I'm referring to is perfect.
Yeah, but
Because
it's a
it
month
has-
later.
Later.
But we don't pay those vouchers until the next month. We're paying January's vouchers now. Or we have paid them little by little. But it goes, we're always a month behind. Right?
So it's this document was last month, no, I think it's,
so the expenditures and appropriations, this is referencing what was paid in the month of January.
that you voted on in January. So
Right,
it's
and
not
then all the vouchers
contemporaneous
that
with the
got-
vote. If a
whereas-
member of the public wants to see, okay, their motion said I approve to pay vouchers. What I would want to know is, okay, how much? $5,000. And the second thing I would want to know, and not wait a month for it, is what did that $5,000 pay?
Yes,
That should be somewhere, even if it's a document linked to the agenda, staff, like something attached to Kip's director's report. I don't know, just throw it. I mean, if it's not, even if it is, I don't want it.
Wait a
not a
minute,
huge amount of
though.
work, but it shouldn't, is it terribly difficult just to have?
no, it's not
Um,
terribly difficult.
Okay, I don't,
It's not that many. I mean, it's 30, but I don't think
Mhm.
there's an automatic way.
No,
I mean, you're
mean,
gonna
but-
be doing it the last minute before the board meeting because we're just.
Yeah, that's
finishing
what
up
I'm
the
worried about.
voucher. If
Well,
it's
you can-
timing,
you can only submit them once a week for payment, right?
Once a month.
Vouchers-
Once a month for us.
Oh,
Once a
you
month.
guys are, okay,
You could have the motion say, you know, I approve $5,000. And the itemization of the vouchers that go with this authorization will appear in the financial statements at the next meeting, you know. something like
and
that.
this
That's
is
the way
what we
that-
paid last month.
Right?
I think that's the way to go.
That way, Stella, all we need right before the meeting is the total. And we trust that you looked at them individually
Yes.
and then,
I can also.
Those,
Yeah.
but in the future, we will total.
But we
So-
did.
maybe we need both the expenditures report, which is itemized, and that total that is approved right before the monthly meeting. Because right now, that stuff hasn't been paid, right?
The vouchers have not been paid, so what we do, our typical process is then the next day, tomorrow morning, Lindsay and or I will do the photocopying, and then we take them over to the county clerk's office, and then usually within a day or two, they're able to process the vouchers and cut the checks and send them off. The one thing I am now just thinking about, though, is this expenditure and appropriations, this is actually a little bit more than the vouchers. When I'm saying it's a little bit more than vouchers, there are some payments that we make to the county that are like electronic transfers. For example, health insurance. You don't see a voucher for that. That's done electronically, but
Correct.
then I get that information. So there is a bit more on the expenditure and appropriations report than what is contained in the vouchers.
And
There's
maybe
a few
those could
things
just
like
be
that.
starred or something, so
Yeah.
that we,
That would be easy.
It's not
Highlight
much,
it.
Right.
Right, payroll's on.
Payroll's not a voucher.
but it technically is, so now, but I don't know how it is.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
So I guess what I'm saying is would lead us to Abigail's point of, yes, actually itemizing what the vouchers actually were.
That you're approving.
Yeah.
to be
The
paid.
vouchers, and they're
Now, they
not-
don't show up in this yet, because they don't show up here until they have been paid.
Have been
But
paid.
this is your authorizing payment of these specific items,
I get it.
right?
We've just
So-
never done it that way.
Right.
So it's a
Um,
change. But it does,
It comes
Feel more
in my
transparent.
head every time.
It's a more transparent idea.
I would at the very
Yeah.
least get the total on the motion going forward, yeah.
it's always kind of felt strange to me that we just automatically trust the treasurer. Of course, we trust Peg, but can we trust every treasurer in the future?
No, but that, you guys all sat through the training, right? I mean, you just,
Yeah.
you just, it's not about trusting Peg or not, you just have to
Just
do your
do
due
it.
diligence, because you never know, and it's not personal. And so, yeah, it might even be appropriate for other board members to randomly stop by and say, I know Peg reviewed the vouchers yesterday, but I want to see them. You know, and when the commissioners review the vouchers, they don't all review all of them, because there's a lot, they break them up. So, you know, they each get a stack and go through them, instead of sitting there going through all of them. But that is literally how their voucher meeting started, and how every voucher meeting begins. If you go to it, they are sitting there with their stack, and they review it, every single one of them.
More than a 5-minute meeting.
So,
okay, any more discussion? Otherwise, I think we're ready to,
yeah.
Can I have, oh, not
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
topic, sorry, I have a.
so can we just finish this motion?
Yeah,
then?
absolutely.
Okay, so all in favor, of Peg's motion and my second to approve payment of the library vouchers for this month?
Hi.
Hi.
Any opposed? Great. What did you want to talk about?
I just need a point of clarification, so
Sure.
our when we do our meeting dates for the year, do we do that at the end of the calendar year, not in,
You do it at this, start of a new board, which is the July.
Okay.
Fiscal year.
Okay,
Yeah, fiscal year.
all right.
Although actually the commissioners do it in December for the upcoming calendar year.
That's a pain in the
Yeah.
neck, actually.
There are changes.
So they don't get to the new board members, go with the dates that were adopted by the
We're more
previous board.
considerate. We're more considerate.
So, yeah, it's fine, either way, it's fine, but I'd forgotten that yours was set up that way,
Okay.
me too. Even though I drafted it. I drafted a lot of.
All right, well, if there isn't anything else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second it.
Okay, great. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.